What's going on, guys, and welcome back to F1 22 My Team Career Mode for Season 3, Round number 15, the Sao Paulo or the Brazilian Grand Prix, whatever you want to call it. So, last sprint weekend of the season, but also, of course, of this game, because we are, once this season is finished, we will be finishing with F1 22 and going on to F1 23 when that comes out in a few weeks' time. Now, just as a thing to talk about, going into Season 4, there is a regulation change to powertrain and durability, and I am, just for the sake of it, gonna do some upgrades here. I mean, we've got the quickest car at the moment anyway. I don't want to, like, you know, put more other upgrades on the car and just absolutely be way quicker than every other team. So we're just, for the sake of it, we're gonna, you know, adapt some parts here, even though technically it doesn't really matter because we're not going to be progressing through to Season 4, depending on when I finish. Because I mean, if I do, you know, the final race next weekend, then we're still going to have a couple of weeks before F1 23 comes out, so I may do kind of a simulation to see where drivers go and what happens for the last, you know, 7 seasons or whatever. But looking at R&D, nothing's really changed. We're still right at the top there, but a massive cluster of 6 teams. There are 6 teams, so essentially 12 drivers, all right there at the top. So that means Q3 can be quite difficult. We didn't do qualifying last time out in Portugal because we took grid penalties, put us at the back of the grid. We are doing it today though. We are going our little heart out, and it's going to be interesting because weather conditions are going to be very all over the place this weekend. It's going to be dry for qualifying, but it's going to be wet for most, if not all, of the sprint. And then there's going to be a little wet patch in the middle of the race as well. Like, it's going to hopefully start dry. It's going to be a little bit wet in the middle and then end dry. So that could be really interesting because it is mostly dry this weekend, with the exception of the sprint potentially being all wet. I have set my car up for dry conditions, so that could hurt us in the sprint and in the little bit if it rains in the race, because it's a very small chance, but it is possible that it will rain in the middle part of the race. But we'll have to see what happens there. Qualifying is going okay here. Qualifying is never my strong suit in this game. The AI always seem to be better at qualifying than they are in the race, and at least for now I'm just keeping the AI difficulty the same for the race and qualifying, so it's about what it should be for the race, or well, at least I hope it is. But for qualifying, they may be a little bit too quick. We are 4 tenths down on the fastest time that time around, only a couple of tenths down from Norris. However, Norris did go quickest in Q1, and I ended up about 4.5 tenths behind him, so that wasn't great. Into Q3 now for our final push lap here. Not the best through Sector 1. I'm a little bit down on my previous time, only by a few thousandths of a second, but I am slightly down. As we move to the next corner, good braking, get a good turn in. You can make or lose a lot of time through that corner. This time we get it okay, but we're still not up on our time. Little bit more speed though through that long right-hander. Seemed to gain speed into the corner, then lost speed out and around the corner. But I mean, we're still like within like a tenth, even less than a tenth of our best previous time. Good braking into that next corner. We are still red at the moment, but I did have a little bit of a wiggle around this left-hander on my fastest previous lap, and that this time around goes a lot better, and we're now just over a tenth of a second up on our best time. So we've gone red in the first sector, we've gone purple in the second sector though, so it is a purple time in the second sector. We come to the line to see what this final sector is going to be like. It's a green sector, it's not purple, and in the end it's going to be P7 for us in the sprint. Lando's P2 on the front row, where once again we're about 4 tenths, 3.5 tenths down on Norris, but I will take that, I think. Let's see what happens in this sprint and what happens for the race.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Bottas, Carlos Sainz and Hamilton, Shaw, Russell, Stroll and Daniel Ricciardo, Ocon, Gasly, Nicholas Latifi and Tsunoda, Mick Schumacher, Albon, Guan Yu Zhou and Kevin Magnussen, Schwartzman, Ticktum, Vettel and Liam Lawson. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
And it is wet from the get-go here in the sprint. Intermediate tyres. Let's see how we go here, because my car is very much not set up for the wet conditions. It is a slow start off the line here. We get overtaken alongside by Russell, and he's actually gone for a dive on his teammate Lewis Hamilton into turn 1. It looks like he might have got that move stuck. Great start there from George Russell. He's actually looking at Carlos Sainz as well, the Ferrari up ahead of him. We are struggling massively. We have absolutely no traction coming through out of the center S's here. It is a big drag race, a lot of cars side by side going into the next corner. Ricardo's now having a look up the inside of us. We just have absolutely no traction whatsoever. My car is terrible in these conditions. I'm starting to think, is my difficulty now way off? But I think it is just the wet weather. It is quite wet here actually. I think it's almost wet tyre conditions, but we are on the intermediate, sorry. Not the intimates, we're on the intimate tyres. But yeah, we had a little look at Hamilton there actually around the outside, because he got a bit caught up by the cars ahead of him. But we just do not have the grip and the confidence on these tyres at all, and we're really struggling to keep with these guys and to keep Ricciardo at bay, who has a look around the outside. Gasly goes into the side of him there, loses a bit of his front wing. That is terrible for the French AlphaTauri driver. He's going to have to come to the pits, and is now going to be towards the back of the end, well, at the back of the grid for the race, most likely at the end of this sprint race. As you can see, we are just struggling so much. Ricciardo now looking at the inside. He's gone for a move up the inside going into turn 1. We're just going to try and outbrake him into the corner. He's there alongside. We're going to try and stay alongside him though, around the outside. Take a tight line through there, cut him off around the next corner, and we will stay ahead and get a little bit of a gap to him. But that corner there is one of the ones that I'm really struggling with here. Just have absolutely no traction whatsoever. It's very difficult in these conditions. As we see, Kevin Magnussen actually has a massive dive up about 3 or 4 cars into turn 1 at the start of this race. He started towards the back of the grid, but has absolutely had a mega start here. Is now alongside Nicholas Latifi in the second Williams here, who started, I think, P13. Magnussen was like P18 or something, P17 or 18, and he's now right there with him. Had a great start to this race. He's actually got past Latifi. He's now battling with Ocon. He's had an amazing start, Kevin Magnussen, in this race. He has to slot in between the two Alpines, but that is a great start for the Williams driver. Also, looking at the start here from the front of the grid, Lando Norris started alongside Max Verstappen, but he got the jump on him into turn 1. That is Norris side by side with the world champion for this season. He's already won the championship, Max Verstappen, as it's 2x2 with the McLaren and Ferrari behind. Bottas gets ahead of Charles Leclerc. These two though, Verstappen and Norris at the front, still side by side as they head down to the next corner. Norris on the inside has to take a very tight line. Verstappen is still just about there, and he's now going to be on the better line going up this fast right hand corner, and this could be where it's done. Yep, Verstappen manages to get the better traction on that inside line and stays ahead of Norris for the lead of the race. Ricciardo still looking for a move on us though. We are massively struggling here. We've lost so much time to the cars ahead. We are honestly probably one of, if not the slowest car on track right now. I don't know if everybody else has just put more wet setup on their car. I did change my front wing a little bit, but it doesn't seem to have made a difference. We get a terrible run out of that next corner, and then that lets Ricciardo now get up the inside. We are going to try and stick with him. We can't in the end, but then he has a really slow second wind to the corner, and we kind of give him a bit of a bump by accident because he's just not where I expect him to be. But now we're going to be side by side going up to the fast right-hander. This could be difficult, but once again, I'm on the inside here. I know I've got the better line. I just make sure I get round the corner, and he cannot do anything around the outside of that corner. It's difficult enough to do anything in the dry, never mind in these wet conditions. Further back, and we have got, I think that is that Esteban Ocon again on well, it's got to be Lance Stroll, and the other, yeah, it is that Lance Stroll? Yeah, I think it is. Lance Stroll on the other Red Bull, because Verstappen's out in front. Stroll is a little bit further down, and yeah, he's just been overtaken, I think, by Esteban Ocon, who's having a good little race here. Now, this is something that happened just behind me on a lap you're about to see in a minute. Yuki Tsunoda locked up into turn 1, went a little bit wide there. I couldn't get a good angle of it from the other camera, so I just had to do it on board. That's what that yellow flag there is for, that you just see. But we go around this corner here. I get a terrible snap around that corner, and that's now going to let Ocon, who is now actually the the lead. Well, he's now ahead of Ricciardo. He's going to try and get up the inside of me. He pushes me out quite wide, a little bit over the white line there. Probably would have been a penalty. I would have had to give him the position there in real life, but it didn't give me anything, so we're going to stick with it there. And he did kind of bounce off the curb and somewhat push me off the track a little bit, so I'm just going to take that. We're struggling so much that I need to take anything I can get. Not really a whole lot of action going on for the rest of this race then, apart from me just defending from Ocon and Ricciardo. We've got this little battle here of Bottas, Sainz, Leclerc, and I think Stroll just behind those guys. Maybe it's not Stroll, I don't know who it is. Somebody was behind those guys. I think it's the two Mercedes actually. But yeah, we end up just about defending off Ocon. We actually, towards the end of this race, started to get a little bit more pace. I don't know if it was just the tyres warming up or the rain easing a little bit. We still were not great. We weren't. There was a couple of laps where we were catching the Mercedes up ahead, but then we slowly then fell back again. But we managed to defend pretty easily from the guys behind on the last few laps. Kevin Magnussen gets driver of the day for the sprint because he had a great battle through the field. And yeah, it's P8 for us, 1 point, so we do get 1 point from this sprint race. It's P2 for Lando Norris, so another great result for him and our team. So let's see what we can do. The two Williams in, what is that, 13th and 14th, so good for them. That's going to put them in a good place for the main race. Well, let's get into that main race now.
Welcome along then to where heroes and history are made. It's where the 2008 title was decided in the very final corner. And just 1 year later, Jenson Button stormed through from 14th on the grid to claim his one and only Drivers' Championship. It's time then for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. It's an unusual anti-clockwise race here at Interlagos, where the Sao Paulo locals are packed into the grandstands at each of the 15 corners around this classic 2.7-mile circuit. Two very fast sections bookend the famous and highly technical Sector 2, where getting a good run out of Junsao into one of the two DRS zones will be key to any overtaking prospects today. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Leclerc, Russell, Shaw and Ocon, Ricciardo, Latifi, Magnussen and Alex Albon, Sainz, Mick Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel and Hamilton. They've taken a grid penalty. Liam Lawson, Schwartzman, Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll. Joe, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Ticktum, Gasly and Max Verstappen completes the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching out for as they head into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
Alright, so a lot of change up and down the grid. Lando Norris starts from P1 because Max Verstappen has taken obviously a few grid penalties here, a few components, because he is dead last after winning the sprint race. He starts P22 alongside Gasly on the back row after his issues in the sprint, and I think taking some components as well. We are elevated up to P5. We've got George Russell, the car ahead of us now, so we're a bit higher up than we were expecting. We're starting on the soft tyres here. Most other people are, because there is rain expected after a few laps. So yeah, we're going to see what happens here, because if this race does come, it could be an issue for us. If it doesn't come, it's going to force us onto potentially a bit of a a bit of a different strategy, maybe trying to get the soft to medium one stop, but we'll see. With 5 red lights now off, it is the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. We actually get a pretty good start off the line here. Russell, though, gets another great start, just like he did in the sprint, and he's already up the inside of Charles Leclerc, and he's actually now battling with Norris. Bottas, though, as we bang wheels with Esteban Ocon through the first couple of corners, Bottas has got an absolutely electric start. He's jumped Norris, and he's bursting away in the lead. Look how far ahead Bottas is already there. Russell up into third, Norris down to second. We are in 5th place. We've lost a bit of time to the cars ahead, but that's not really because of pace. That is because we ended up having a bit of contact with Esteban Ocon through the center S's. No damage for us. I don't think there's any damage for Ocon as well. He's just dropped back a little bit. But yeah, not the greatest start here, but I really want to make as much progress as I can in these first few laps before the rain comes, because that rain, you know, especially considering how we coped with the rain in the sprints, we don't want to be, you know, trying to make up positions in the wet, because I just don't think it's going to happen. The rain isn't going to be as heavy, anywhere near as heavy as it was in the sprint race, but, you know, still, I don't think we're going to have the greatest pace, so we've got to try and make moves as quickly as we can. We're now once again right on the back of these guys ahead. This does make me wonder if these guys did actually put on slightly more wet setups, because yeah, I've been able to catch up to them really quickly after that initial contact in the first corner. Looking at the start once again, and this is Bottas's absolutely electric start from the grid. He gets up into P1. You can see myself, Ocon, and Ricciardo all 3 wide through the center S's in the background there. That is the contact that was made. But yeah, we were literally 3 wide through like turn, I guess it's turn 2. Pretty crazy stuff there. No wonder there was a little bit of contact. Max Verstappen got a jump on 2 cars off the line. He's now ahead of the AlphaTauri as well of Yuki Tsunoda, and he's actually now got his teammate of Lance Stroll up ahead of him, so that just shows you how bad Stroll's doing. He did also take grid penalties, but I mean, not as many as Verstappen did. And now I think Verstappen is actually fighting with his teammate. Yes, he is on the inside, and he's already passed his teammate just after sector 1. So an amazing start for Verstappen. He's already made up, what, 5 positions, I think? Great start for him. As now we have a look at one of the Ferraris of Carlos Sainz. He also took some grid penalties. He's now got Kevin Magnussen ahead of him in the Williams, and he's going for a move into this next corner. Great little move down the inside. Magnussen, though, trying to hold on. Of course, had a great sprint race, starting inside both Williams, started inside the top 10 for this race. He's fighting with Sainz, but here you can see that, unlike in the wet, you can just about get around the outside if you have the pace and the grip around that corner in the dry conditions. Verstappen still trying to make moves through the grid. He has now got, I believe that's Liam Lawson in the Aston Martin, the car ahead of him, trying to go round the outside. He's got the inside for turn 2. Lawson's given him a pretty good fight here, and his teammate, well, Verstappen's teammate Stroll is just sitting in the background there waiting for something to happen as well, though. But they go down this straight here. Lawson, though, trying to stick with him, and Verstappen actually goes a little bit too deep into that next corner, lets Lawson back past and his teammate. So Verstappen's just lost a couple of positions there. So after a really good start, slightly coming undone a bit a few laps into the race, we have absolutely dropped the cars behind. Ocon has fallen back quite a bit, not because of damage, but because he started on the medium tyres, whereas pretty much everybody else around us and around him started on the softs. And now Carlos Sainz is actually the car behind us. Lewis Hamilton trying to make his way through the order after a grid penalty for him as well. He's got Sebastian Vettel, the car to contend with next. He's trying to go round the outside of the 4-time world champion, Sebastian Vettel, as they're now going to go side by side up this corner, up this section as well. Vettel trying to hang in there on the outside, but the Mercedes is just a better car, and Vettel can't quite do anything about it. Will have to give up that position. But some good racing from these guys. 11 world championships between those two right there. Pretty great stuff. We are now just trying to push as much as we can, having a little look up the inside of Leclerc into turn 1, because you can see on the just on the screen really, there are drops of rain starting to form, and a couple of laps later, lap number 7, my teammate and the cars ahead of Leclerc and Russell are not going to come in just yet. Sorry, it might be the next lap around, but we're now looking for a move on Leclerc. We're making him go defensive to the inside. We're going to try and go round the outside as DRS is disabled. So yeah, it'll be this lap that people will start coming in because the rain is getting heavier. We though have made the move on Charles Leclerc and we're up another position into P4 now. Lando Norris and George Russell, the cars ahead. So let's just see if we can keep this going. My team tells me, yep, you're going to come in on the next lap because Norris is coming in this lap. We don't want to double stack, and it's not too wet at the moment. I can definitely feel that things are a bit slippery, but it's not too bad at the moment. It's still doable, and that actually puts us into the lead of the race because Bottas also comes into the pits. As these guys now come out of the pits, they end up getting Max Verstappen right behind them. He's not coming to the pits yet either. And Russell actually coming under fire from Leclerc there, just about manages to hold him off. But yeah, Leclerc almost got past Russell after those pit stops, but now Norris and Russell and Leclerc have all got stuck behind, I think that's Alex Albon in the Williams, or that might be Magnussen, I'm not sure. One of the Williams there is absolutely holding these guys up, hasn't come in yet, he's still on dry tyres. Russell's managed to go round the outside of Norris and the Haas car and has broken off up ahead. This is not good for Norris especially because he was in P2. He's now dropped to P3 because of Russell getting past. Finally, Norris and Leclerc both get past the Haas, which will now come into the pits to change onto intermediate tyres. But now Leclerc has a better run and the slipstream on Lando Norris. Is going to try and go for a move into turn 1 but can't quite get it done. Norris will stay ahead of Russell, but he is now in an effective P3. As next lap around, lap number 8 or 9 I think this is, we are coming in for our pit stop onto the intermediate tyres, and it definitely was a little bit difficult towards the end of that stint on the soft tyres, on the dry soft tyres, but it wasn't terrible. And I think maybe, especially with the issues in the traffic that Russell, Norris and Leclerc came across, we might actually be able to do something here. Well, Russell's ahead, we're going to come out pretty much side by side with Norris, but we're not going to try and fight him. We're going to let him go into the next corner, just focus on staying ahead of Leclerc, and we do manage to do that. Further behind, Sebastian Vettel now has Kevin Magnussen up ahead of him. He's gone for a dive up the inside to this next corner. Great little move there. Magnussen tries to fight it, but Vettel has the grip and has the car underneath him. Although the Williams and the Aston Martin are both pretty much down the bottom of the R&D chart, Vettel makes that move stick. Now we just kind of keep going here, lap 14. This is about as heavy as the rain gets, which is actually good, because we're managing to keep with the guys ahead. We're not losing time to Norris, to Russell, to Leclerc behind. Sainz is maybe catching us a little bit in the Ferrari, but yeah, we are sticking with the cars around us. So in these only slightly wet conditions, we seem to have the pace. It's just when it gets really wet that we really have issues. Bottas is still absolutely sailing, quite literally, out front. He has a massive gap to the cars behind. It's been a very lonely race for the Finn, but I'm sure he's not sad at all. This would be, I believe, his second win of the season. I think he won a race earlier on in the season, so yeah, great for him and McLaren. Now the team told me to come in this lap around, but Norris is also coming in, and I just don't think it's worth double stacking. The track is still a little bit wet, so I'm going to go one lap longer on those intermediate tyres. After Norris and the other guys have come in though, because they all came in on the same lap, Norris is now on the soft tyres. Wait a minute, Norris is on the softs. Russell and Leclerc both on the mediums, presumably going to the end of the race on those tyres, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to change onto the medium compound tyres and try and go to the end. Might be a bit of a long stint on those tyres, but I think it's definitely doable. Whereas Lando's gone onto the softs, he's not going to get to the end of the race on those softs, so he's going to have to come in for another pit stop. So that's going to screw him over. It is though going to give us another position here and be able to fight for a podium. So yeah, it's going to be a fight with me, Russell and Leclerc for the podium here, but at the moment Norris is still with us, although he is kind of buggering off ahead a little bit because on those soft tyres he does have the better traction. Now there's a big battle about to commence further back, this is Nicholas Latifi going for a move on, I think it is Dan Ticktum. I'm not 100% sure. It is one of the Alfa Romeos. He's got the yellow T-cam. I'm pretty sure that's Ticktum. Latifi trying to get past him. I mean, the fact Latifi in an Alpine is fighting these guys is not good. He should be well ahead of these, but he just doesn't have the pace in that Alpine. I don't know why he is in that car, to be completely honest with you. And yeah, he's been overtaken by Ticktum. He's now under pressure from Yuki Tsunoda as well in the AlphaTauri, and it might be the case that he may lose out to him as well. He's just about sticking with him at the moment. They go side by side through this section here. You can't really see what's going on because of the camera angle, but they are side by side through this section, and Tsunoda's still there actually, putting up a great job here. A few cars behind as well. I think Max Verstappen, one of those ones there, might be Lance Stroll in the Red Bull, not sure, but still Tsunoda is fighting with Latifi. He's on the inside now. I think Latifi has got the run out of the final corner, but that may not be the best thing because Tsunoda may not get DRS. It looks like he might be a bit too far back, and actually it is Max Verstappen who's now got past one of the Williams and is now diving up the inside of Tsunoda into turn 1. Verstappen still trying to salvage anything from this race. Maybe he can score at least a point or two here, who knows, but he's really trying to make his way through. His fellow, well, Red Bull driver, technically AlphaTauri driver, but part of Red Bull, Yuki Tsunoda, not putting up too much of a fight there actually, and letting Verstappen go for some points. Now we managed to get right up to the back of these guys again, of Russell and Leclerc, and we're still trying to find a way through. We have the fastest lap of the race. We are flying here. We have great pace in these dry conditions, but it's a bit difficult to get past because Leclerc has DRS from Russell. He's dropping back a little bit though, and I get a really good run now. We're going to make him go to the inside. We're going to try and go around the outside once again, but he has gone for a dive bomb on Leclerc. He's gone from being attacked to attacking himself, and he's actually made the move on Russell. Great opportunistic move on from Charles Leclerc there, and now we've got a run on Russell, who's had a bad exit out of the center S's. We're going to dive up the inside of him, get the move done. We've now got Mick Schumacher in the Haas. He is a back marker car who gets out of the way while we're all fighting, and that was some opportunistic stuff there. We're past Russell, and now hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to get past Leclerc because he won't have DRS. And sure enough, coming onto the back straight of that same lap, we are powering through with DRS and ERS, making go to the inside, but then a quick dart to the inside ourselves. We're going to try and get this move done up the inside where we've been going around the outside pretty much every other time, and we've got it done. Our pace is good in these dry conditions. We're ahead of Leclerc. We're going to just go to the inside to defend from him because he will have DRS down here, but he's actually being attacked by George Russell instead, so we don't really have to worry. He manages to defend from Russell, but in the end, we are now up into P3, and yeah, it's pretty good. These two, Leclerc and Russell, are now going to fight each other. And actually, we're now in P2 because Norris has had to come in for his pit stop. He's onto his third set of soft tyres of this race, and he's now just got to try and salvage whatever he can after being dealt a terrible strategy by the team. I don't know if the team decided to put him on this strategy or if this is what he wanted to do. Ultimately, it was not the right strategy though, but he does make his way past Daniel Ricciardo for I think P6. The two AlphaTauris towards the back are fighting with each other. Gasly getting past Tsunoda there. Very nice move into turn 1, although Tsunoda will now have the DRS as they go down this next mini straight, but Gasly's got it covered. He's ahead of his teammate, and yeah, some good little battles there further down the order. In the end, we just kind of had a bit of a quiet race for the last 10 or so laps, sifting through a lot of back markers, many cars here at the end that just, yeah, were a lap down pretty much. And in the end, we're going to come through for P2. Bottas dominates the weekend, wins the race. Well, doesn't dominate the weekend, but dominates the race. We come home in P2 though, and it is Charles Leclerc who manages to hang on for P3. A pretty exciting race weekend, this one. Didn't have the pace in the sprint, but in the dry in the race, we were pretty good.
We've witnessed some great battles around the historic curves of Interlagos today, and they've taken a fantastic win. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
As the winners make their way up to the podium, one can only imagine the celebrations that will take place at McLaren tonight. Congratulations to everyone on the team, securing the win and proving that they're a force to be reckoned with out on the track.
So there we have it. Bottas, I believe, takes his second win of the season there in the McLaren. Great race from him, just got the jump on Norris at the start and never looked back. We managed to salvage P2 after a terrible sprint race where we had no pace at all in the wet conditions. When it was dry in the main race, we really did have the pace. Our car was definitely set up for those dry conditions. Fastest man on track. I don't think we quite got the fastest lap in the end. No, Norris took the fastest lap, but yeah, it was still good from us. And then Leclerc manages to take the podium away from George Russell. We did also have in the end, well, Verstappen actually manages to get 1 point for P10. Great move from him to get from last on the grid. Lewis Hamilton actually DNF'd from the session, just a mechanical failure for him in the last 5 or so laps. So very unfortunate for him. Was looking to at least score, well, actually I don't know if he was really, because he had the penalty, didn't he? So maybe no points for Hamilton anyway. The championship's a foregone conclusion. Verstappen's already won it, but we're in 6th. Norris is there in 3rd. It could be pretty tight for that 2nd and 3rd spot, so pretty exciting stuff there for the last race. And then in the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari lead Red Bull by 2 points in the Constructors. We are still technically in contention for the Constructors' Championship, but it's going to take a miracle for us to win it. But yeah, a big battle between Red Bull and Ferrari coming up for the final race of the season. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.